I thought I'd create a post today using dynamic tape, a low-grade, easy assessment that anyone can do in their office, and a medial drift device developed by Dr. Tom Michaud to show how I might screen how I would test whether someone needs for an orthotic and how I might tape to see if they respond well that an orthotic might be an appropriate intervention. The first part of the screen is just simply having the patient rotate side to side. In this case it's me. As the trunk and body rotate this way, we would expect this foot and arch to actually invert. What we see based on the arrow here is very little to no inversion. Go the other way, maybe just a hair more, little to no, maybe just a hair more. But you're not seeing much response. In fact, you would say that these feet stay pretty well planted and they're a relatively flat foot. Again, if we look posteriorly, as I rotate, you're just watching what's happening. Is the foot able to, as I rotate this direction, does the foot lift or not? Are you seeing any change on either foot? And there's not a lot of response. In fact, many times we're actually looking at what's happening at the arch and the calcaneus. Today, hopefully, I'll shed some light on why measuring calcaneal eversion may not be how we want to determine whether someone needs an orthotic or not. Here I'm walking on a treadmill. We'll just play it fast speed for a minute, and then we'll just slow it down to maybe half speed or a little less. And what I want you to notice mostly as I'm walking here, so if we bring this back a little bit, that as I go frame by frame, you don't really see my big toe in the picture here, and you're seeing all the lateral toes, but not much of the big toe. You see my medial malleolus, but not much of the toe. As I come off, you'll see not an extreme, but a bit of a medial heel whip. And notice I surgically had this foot first ray shortened, but you'll see that I'm toeing off over the second metatarsal here, but there's the medial whip. So again, now let's do some taping and see what changes. Before we tape, we're going to use what's called a medial drift device. You can see it in the picture here. Again, developed by Dr. Tom Michaud. The idea is that if you're less than 5 millimeters, you're a supinator. If you're more than 10, you're a pronator. The neat part is it actually measures function, not foot architecture, but actually three-dimensional function, because it measures pretty much as the talus adducts medially, it's going to move the medial malleolus in a medial direction and will give you input about the impact of the talus upstream on the foot. And as we know, research currently shows that eversion at the rear foot is not predictive of movement. And so we need something that's going to be predictive of the movement. And if we can recognize that orthotics at this point don't actually change eversion, end range motion, but instead work as lever arms, then it's important, as Dr. Michaud would say, to measure lever arms. And this is a really nice way to measure the lever arm and as it changes when the medial malleolus drifts relative to the talus adducting. I'm in subtalar neutral, and basically we're just going to slide the device to my medial malleolus, and then we're going to slide the device away, and once the device is slid away, we'll measure how much medial deviation that I correct. Again, we want to control those lever arms, so how much I deviated medially, and then we'll get a measurement of that in millimeters. You can see I was about 13 or 14 millimeters, so clearly on the side of pronator. Again, on the extremes above 10 or below 5, we may want to consider a device. Based on that number, it would imply that my foot might benefit from an orthotic to help work as a lever arm to control the amount of medial deviation as the talus adducts. However, I wanted to use some dynamic tape, which is not kinesiology tape. It's a totally different type of tape. And I basically plantar flexed the foot, captured the calcaneus, and raised the medial arch. So if we now watch the rotation, you can see there's a significant difference in my ability to invert the rear foot, and the tape is assisting in that compared to the opposite foot. So if we watch that again from behind, notice that I'm able to actually get the arch to lift. We go from the front. So you can see the tape is having maybe some impact there. Here we go, I'm walking on the treadmill. We'll slow it down to maybe half speed or so. And again, what I want to point out at half speed is, when we get to a point that makes sense, is you're actually able to, the entire time, see my big toe. And so I'll capture that right there. You're able to see that on the previous one there was no big toe. You can see the big toe is there. We watch no tape, notice no big toe at any point in that time. If we watch here, we get the camera work to clean up a little bit. Notice we get big toe all the way through. And if you watch, there's a significantly less amount of medial whip occurring. So if we watch that again, it's occurring slightly, but the calcaneus is able to re-invert and not medial whip. The comparison with the tape on, we're here and we get that medial whip. First thing, however, is if we use the medial drift test again, here we are testing, let it relax, and now as I relax, here's our value. We can see that the value here is 6, down from about 14. So clearly the tape is having an impact controlling that lever arm. Again, the idea being, if I can assess the lever arm and understand how much translation occurs, and in this case use tape as an appropriate modifying factor to see if it can create a change in the symptoms, then I can be predictive of whether an orthotic might be a successful intervention. So give it a shot, let me know what your thoughts are, and I hope you enjoy the post.